This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor on Ag AM in Kansas. I'm your host, Conrad Cabas. Recently, the Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity of Kansas State University sponsored a spring ag symposium about feeding a hungry planet with global food leaders in the food system. Dr. Alan Featherstone is the department head for agriculture economics and was appointed to Kansas State in 1986. His primary responsibilities have been teaching and research.
My name is Alan Featherstone, and I'm department head of agricultural economics. I'm here to essentially give a brief summarization of what I talked about. My topic was basically looking at how to feed a world of 9 billion people. Essentially, being an economist, I take a look at the supply and demand factors. There's two major demand factors that are going to drive food demand over the next 35 years. Obviously, one is population. The more mouths to feed, the more food production that is needed. The other thing with regards to population that I think people need to begin taking a look at is just the growth in population differences across the world. In terms of a lot of times you think of going from 7 to 9 billion people, and essentially that's level across the globe, but it's very uneven across the globe. If you look at that 2 billion person increase, roughly 1 billion of those people will be in Asia, 1 billion of those people will be in Africa. And if you look at the production resources are going to mismatch very much with regards to where people are going to be. The second aspect is income, essentially looking in terms of income. There's a increasing income in different parts of the world. One of the things that people do across the world is once they have a little bit more income, they begin to diversify their diet, whether or not that be livestock and meat protein, or whether or not that be fruits and vegetables. And so those two aspects create the demand side. In terms of looking at the supply side basically can also be kind of broken down into two issues. One of those essentially is going to be need for additional land. The other aspect is going to be the need for increased technology. If you look at the aspect with land, essentially since 2007, the total amount of arable land in the world has increased actually by 1.2%. And so the idea there that we're not creating new land to bring into production is just not supported by the facts. If you look at some of the projections, the aspect is we need to increase our global land by about 7%. If you look at the possibility in Brazil alone, they could end up increasing their land mass and completely meet the 7% without doing much environmental damage. One of the things they may end up doing is converting pasture to cropland. When you think about pasture, it's not what you typically think about in Kansas, where it's kind of wasteland. Essentially, it's more like Illinois and Iowa, where if you go back in the 1950s, there was a lot of pasture land there, and a lot of that has been converted in an environmentally sustainable way. And so certainly that's a possibility. The other aspect is with regards to technology. In terms of one of the things that I took a look at was the change in technology yields in corn, wheat, soybeans, and rice over the last 60 years, 50 years, and then looked at the 20 years. But in terms of looking at those numbers, one of the things you can end up seeing is that in order to meet cereal production needs of an increase in 42%, essentially from productivity alone, if we can continue what we've done the last 20 years, we're looking at about a 50% increase in wheat yields and about a doubling of corn yields. And again, if you kind of think about that, maybe an average yield is 150 bushel in Kansas, that would be 300 bushel yields by 2050. That sounds like a pretty high number until you think back that we just set a record for commercial production last year of in excess of 500 bushel an acre. And so the technology is there. It's just basically getting the nutrients, the water to the crop in a more economic manner.
Thank you for watching this episode of Farm Factor about feeding the future. For more of Farm Factor, or if you want to view this episode again, visit us on www.agaminkansas.com. Or you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. So have a good day. with good luck.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.